What up, nation? Welcome to the second edition of the Lead Into Lock stream. I'm your host, Paulie D, joined by the boy genius, KamG. Haven't seen Kammy in a while. Love breaking slates down with him. It's only a 4-gamer, but it's a pretty decent one for a 4-game slate. What's your thoughts? How you doing, and what's your thoughts on the slate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's been a long time since we've hung out, done a show together. I can't even remember the last time. Maybe baseball. Yeah. When I was like in a hotel room or something. I don't think that pops into my head, but yeah, I like the slate overall. Like you said, 4 games. I don't have a lot of interest in like one of them maybe, but other than that, I think there's like 2 really good matchups that have like a lot of potential plays, and then kind of just picking pieces from maybe like Knicks, Portland, and Denver, Philly. But yeah, I think Washington, Charlotte, and Miami and Atlanta are going to be the 2 games that rightfully so, like a good amount of people are going to go to, and then try to find the guys that get the job done in the other 2, and that'll be the key to tonight. But yeah, it's definitely a good 4-game slate. It's not one of those like kind of like crappier ones that we get sometimes. Agreed.
What site are you playing on today?
FanDuel.
And how many lineups you got?
I'll do 150 today. I don't always do 150 because I don't have time, but today I do.
All right, excellent. So you kind of cover that aspect. I'll cover the DraftKings, and away we go. We'll do position by position. We'll see where we're at time-wise. Maybe we'll do some game-by-game breakdown as well. And then we will kind of transition into just breaking down the slate to each other as we lead into lock and react to news. So point guard on the higher end, 6K and up. What do you like?
Yeah, so this is kind of like the thing today. I think you just kind of all these guys are in play, right? You got Dame, you got Trae Young. Ben Simmons is always fine depending on what price tag he has, but I don't know if I necessarily love the matchup versus Denver, so I think I'm going to favor like Dame and Trae Young kind of. The thing with point guard today on FanDuel is there's just a lot of value at the point guard position to the point where some of these guys are going to go low owned relative to a lot of potentially like the other pay ups, I guess, on the slate. So you're going to get around like a 25% Dame and stuff on the 4-game slate, which is really interesting. And I think the same thing for Trae Young as well. So those are the 2 that I'm favoring. I think you can like play Ben Simmons if you want. I'm just going to get more of a chunk of like Trae Young and Dame just because I think those guys have like Trae Young arguably maybe not like a better spot than Ben, but like Dame's in like a really good spot, so I like him. But Trae Young can just kind of go off whenever he wants just because he's like a pure shooter, so I'll always have exposure to him, and it doesn't really matter the matchup for me when he's playing. So I'm gonna have those 2, and then did you say 6K and above for me? Yeah, and then I mean I gotta have some Rozier in this spot. I hate the guy, like he's burned me so much this year. I think the only time he's like paid off really has been against Golden State. I've played him way too much, but it's just really hard to like not have any of him today at 7-2. On this slate, it kind of makes it hard, and especially when I'm making like a ton of lineups, there's really no reason for me not to have any of him. And then like Jamal Murray has some pretty good history versus Philly in the past, but I would rank it like Damon Young like 1-2, or Damon Young 1-2, and then like Rozier 3, and then I'll probably have a little bit of Jamal Murray, and I'm honestly don't think I'm gonna have any Ben Simmons, to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, same thing on DraftKings. Trae Young is, significantly more expensive than the next 2 options, 10-4, but I think he's going to get mostly like Kendrick Nunn D, which is not very good, and his assist ratio is so high. Like even on poor shooting days, he gets to the line enough and scores enough and has enough assists that would like on a 4-game slate, his raw score, even in a bad day, bad point per dollar day, may be high enough to where you still want him. And if the game's close, he's probably doing well because they just don't have many other guys that can keep him in a game against a superior team like Miami. Damian Lillard, I'm fine with. I like that game, so I'll get some. And then Devontae Graham, who's point guard only on DraftKings at 8-4, like I'll have 10% or less. He's shown us consistency and high ceilings. Washington plays fast, doesn't play any D. It's a really good spot for him. I'm not as into this game, but I'm just gonna get some exposure because there's no reason not to with 150 teams on a 4-game slate. And then you got Ben Simmons that interests me the least. Probably only have like 5% ownership, although I think he has like the best matchup of the Sixers. Probably going to draw Jamal Murray D, so he's got size advantage. But these are just two slow and very good defensive teams that aren't really cheap enough, or at least Ben Simmons isn't cheap enough to where it entices you to play him. Terry Rozier is a 5% play for me. Jamal Murray, minimal. And then that's that down to 6. Take me down to Value Town. Seems like, we're on board. Trae Young, Dame, and then, value. So what do you like?
Yeah. So coming in like pretty chalky on FanDuel is going to be Kendrick Nunn again, with like no Winslow and Dragic. He should see the same amount of minutes that he's been seeing, and like he's 4'9" still, and a guy that just like can take shots, can get hot. I still think that's really, really too cheap for him, especially going up against Atlanta here. He's my favorite value on the slate, and then there's another guy, Ish, who's probably going to come just like below him in ownership, maybe a little more, I'm not sure, but he's 5'2" compared to Nunn being 4'9". I think they're both really good options today. I think you can definitely like play both if you want to go that route. They're both pretty solid values. The thing with Ish is like his price has kind of gone up increasingly over like the last however many games, 3 to 4, where he started playing. So he's not like a smash
What's his
like
price
value anymore at 5'2". He's still definitely fine, but I don't know necessarily how big of a ceiling he has. But he should be like a pretty solid cash game type play in this spot. Those are like the two main guys that you're looking at in like an optimal kind of like builds. I'm sure those are going to be the two guys that you're going to see a ton of. And then kind of wanted to get your take on this because I know you're a Knicks fan. So with like Fizdale being gone and everything, I think there's, especially on like a 4-game slate now, like what's your approach to the Knicks today? Because their backcourt's like super stacked now with like Nitty, DSJ, Elf, like RJ, all those guys. But with that being said, like on a 4-game slate where no one has an idea of where this kind of new approach or new coach, like the approach that he's going to take, like what minutes he's going to allot or anything like that, are you willing to take a shot on maybe like some of these guys, especially since like you and I are both playing a ton of lineups? I think there's like a pretty good opportunity here that potentially one of these guys goes off in a matchup against Portland. Like I've seen like games this year where they've been like playing pretty poor defense, and I just could see one of these guys go off at like a really low price tag on FanDuel. I'm not sure what they are on DraftKings, but they're like all low 4s and projecting right now for single digit, even like decimal ownership. So I think like that's a pretty interesting tournament play for people who are making multiples.
I'm going to have exposure to like everyone I think will see minutes and just try to correlate the outcomes, right? Like Dennis Smith Jr., I think is more of a blowout build guy. So like I'll be pairing him with like Anthony Simons and, even maybe like a Dame Lillard because they get blown out. Dame probably goes off, but not with like a Marcus Morris, Elf Payton's definitely knocking on the door for more minutes to start. He smashed the other day in like 17 minutes, went for 31 DraftKings points. The usage was awesome. He was promised a starting spot when the Knicks signed him. Like that would be my first like expectation that the coach may change is put him and Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup. But even if they don't start, I expect their minutes to kind of increase. So like Elf, Mitch Robinson, Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, I'm gonna have a ton of. But I'll also play like Nitty, Dotson, Dennis Smith because we don't know, but they're all so cheap. And if the Knicks stay in the game, with Portland not really being that great, like Knicks may be motivated with new coach, then the starters ball out. If the Knicks get blown out, then these backups are going to get too much run for what their price is. So I'm going to have Knicks a ton on the slate. They're my favorite spot on the slate because of the way they're priced on DraftKings. And play as many of them as you can. And like you said, we both have enough lineups that there's no reason not to get even 4 to 5% exposure of some of the guys you don't really even like Kevin Knox or Taj Gibson, who you just don't know. It's up in the air, but those are the plays that win you tournaments on days like this. So
yeah, exactly. Like I'm glad you're on the same kind of boat with that, because when that's the first thing I kind of went through everything for today's slate, and I was kind of looking at it, and I was on I look at the slate and then I kind of look at like ownerships after, and I was kind of on like everything that the field was, and I was trying to think of like a way to somewhat get an edge in tournaments today on like a 4-game slate without being kind of stupid. And that was kind of like the first thing that popped into my head, where I was just like, new coach, a lot of like unknown with like the Knicks rotation in a game against a team that can give up a ton of points here. So I thought that was like kind of an edge on this slate if you could get that right. And exactly what you said, if you're making multiples, there's really no reason to not have some of those outs if one of those low-owned guys for the Knicks goes off. So I'm with you there.
Cool. And for me at point guard at value, obviously I like Elf. The Knicks we already talked about. Ish Smith at 5'2", I'm not as high on. I'll have a tad, but it's getting to the point where what's the real upside? The usage is great, but I think his ownership's a little too high. And Terry Rozier is a good defender, so maybe he just doesn't get high enough today, and fading him is the play. I'll just be underweight on him. We'll talk about ownership projections a little later. Anthony Simons, as I mentioned, I'll get in some blowout builds. And with Rodney Hood out, he saw an increase in minutes. He played terribly, but he's a streaky kind of guy. And if you catch him when he's hitting shots and getting the increase in minutes at 3.6 on a site like DraftKings, where most of his points are going to come from threes, he's worth getting on a 4-game slate. Nothing crazy, but I don't think the value is really that great on DraftKings outside of Elf, and I'll take shots on Simons and guys like Malik Monk, at 3.9 and just a very good matchup. Moving over
right now. So you'd go none over Smith, right?
I would, yeah. I mean, okay. I think Nunn has the higher ceiling anyway.
Right.
In a close game, it's probably Jimmy Butler doing most of the work, but I mean, he's gone off before. But if Miami blows them out, being shorthanded, he'll probably get additional run and have all the usage. So, yes, I would prefer Nunn in that instance. Move us over to shooting guard, same thing, down to 6.
Yeah. So Brad Beal at the top, pretty obvious. Like, he just gets a ton of minutes, like usage monster for this team. Going up against Charlotte, really poor versus wings. Pretty self-explanatory. Like, he's going to be owned, but if you have the money, you might as well get up to him, I guess. Jimmy Butler as well. He's probably my favorite in the pay-up spot. Obviously, like you said before, if you kind of correlate it with the game staying close, I think he has real potential at this price. Just going to see a lot of minutes as well with a lot of the injuries. Those should be pretty secure, and he's just been going off without like Dragic and Winslow in the lineup. So I like him. Devontae Graham, which you mentioned, he's shooting guard eligible. On FanDuel, I'll have some of him at 7-9. Not like priority or anything. I'll probably be under the field on him, to be honest, just because his price tag's a little bit higher than I'd like to pay for him. But there's definitely potential. What did you say?
What's the price?
7-9. So he's like around 8K. He's fine, but I mean, I could see him getting like 5x like pretty easily, but I don't know necessarily if he's got like a super high ceiling. But and then
Washington?
What'd you say?
Against Washington?
Yeah, I don't like. I think he's fine, but I'd rather play like the other two guys, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I agree. I mean, I'm not getting much, but I'm nervous as shit about it, and I'm paying more for him on DraftKings. So
I'm just gonna have more Beal and Butler than him, but I'll definitely have Graham. But then like McCollum is okay, but I'm honestly not like really getting any of him. Like relatively speaking, I have right now. I just did one. I have 17% of him, but it's not like a ton. But I have to kind of throw him in there just in case versus the Knicks, I guess. And
what's his price?
7-4.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, those are really like the only four guys eligible up over 6K to play. And it says Josh Richardson starting, right? But I guess so he's eligible, but I'm not going to play him.
Agreed. So, Brad Beal's projected to be one of the more popular plays on the slate. 9-3. I don't love it either. Again, I'm just not as high on this game. Like, Washington has surprised the shit out of me in their last few shorthanded, the teams that they've hung in with or even beaten. But I feel like, that has to come to an end at some point. And Charlotte really plays slow. I just don't think this game is the game of the night. Like, I prefer, two of the other three on the slate. I'll get some exposure, but I'm going to be underweight on this game. And, I honestly prefer the Charlotte side than the Washington, even though they are shorthanded. But the prices have kind of caught up to, it's priced in that shorthandedness, in my opinion. I do prefer Jimmy Butler. He's just kind of taken that team and put him on his back. With Winslow and Dragic out, his usage is just high. And if the game is very close, like, he's going to be doing everything, and he's got triple-double upside. He contributes across all the stat lines. Atlanta turns the ball over a ton, so he could have a ceiling in steals. Just a really good spot. Unfortunately, he's projected to be pretty popular, the most popular at this point, according to one projection system. So, I like that game. I like him. I don't think there's many outcomes out of 100 where Atlanta blows out Miami. So, it's either like, in my mind, it's like either Miami blows them out and he does, all right to good, or it's a really close game, potentially overtime, and he does phenomenal. So I'll have more Butler than Beal. And that's just because I like that game more. But I really like CJ McCollum at 7-1 against the Knicks. Like, he gets, great minutes. In close games, he's going to see like 37 to 40. He's taken around 17 to 25 shots in those games. Like, he's got a couple 55, 60s, like 50s on the season. And at 7-1, like 35, I think 5X is his floor with plenty to go on the upside. And again, I just think the Knicks show up, and I don't think Portland's as good without Nurkic. And I think the Knicks can kind of hang in this one, and I want pieces of a lot of this game. So I really like McCollum, and that's like really it down to 6 on this end. What do you got in value land at shooting guard?
Yeah, so I think right at the top it's just going to be Tyler Hero again. With like a lot of the absences that Miami has, he just gets kind of a plug and play for me, honestly. Like, he's just been producing a ton. He's 5'4", in another really good spot versus Atlanta. Obviously, his last two outings have been versus Washington and Chicago, which are two really good matchups as well. But gets Atlanta here. So like I don't see a reason why you wouldn't get a lot of him, I guess, outside of if you just kind of want to take shots at maybe guys who have somewhat higher ceilings that are priced higher. But to me, he just seems like the clear-cut value at shooting guard. And then kind of like two other guys that I was looking at, like you could take a shot on Duncan Robinson if you want. There's been games, probably more in like blowouts, where he tends to get a little more minutes and a little bit higher usage. And he's 4-2, so like he's reasonable there. I think a lot of people are going to go to Hero, so he'll get a little bit less ownership from there, and like he's got a less probability to kind of go off like he has been. He's had a couple games for like 30, which you'd like here if you could, but I think the ownership kind of reflects that as well. So I think he's the guy that I'm going to throw in there. And then, like you mentioned before, like kind of that trend we were on, like Dotson, kind of the guy, if this game gets really gross or something like that, I'm not going to have a ton of him, right? But it's just one of those things, like Paulie and I said before, I think we're kind of in the same boat, like just play. I'm going to have a little bit of like all of the Knicks just because I don't know what the coach is going to do. Like if someone gets hot on Portland, this game could get gross and a lot of the scrubs could come in as well. Like you never really know. And I think this is like the most exploitable spot from like a public perspective because a lot of people don't know what's going to go on. So if you just take shots and risks on those guys on a 4-game slate, I think there's a lot of payoff potential there. And then Malik Monk's the last guy I'm throwing in there. Also not going to get a ton of him, maybe like 5%, but he's 3.8 and could see around 20 minutes in this spot. And if he gets 20 minutes, there's potential in this matchup where he could get like a 26 or something if he catches a little bit of fire. And at 3.8, I'd definitely take that. So those are the guys in Value Town that I'm looking at, but it's really just getting a ton of Tyler Hero.
But what's Hero's price on FanDuel?
5.4.
5.4. Yeah, he's 5.9 on DraftKings. Hit the game-winning 3 last game. Like, this kid was awesome in the summer league. You know, that game went to overtime. He got 41 minutes. Got hot from 3 in the end. You know, 5.9 on DraftKings, a little tough. You know, but I will get exposure because I think it's the best game on the night. And you know, he's shown us back-to-back 40 burgers, and at 6K,
Yeah.
you'll love that. So. But I'll be a little lower on him than, say, Butler or Nunn or, you know, we'll talk about the bigs. But mostly the same guys you mentioned, right? Like Malik Monk, I love that call. Just a guy, you know, on days like this, 4-game slates, like, you know, on 9, 10-game slates, you can never get more than like 2-3% of him because it's just so rare when he does go off. But this is the perfect opponent. It's only a 4-game slate. You know, he gets, I want to say, you know, 17 to 22 minutes. Like, he can go off in 20 minutes if his shot is hot. And then usually they'll give him a little more time, right? And then game flow may go his way. So on a 4-game slate, you can get like 10% of him, not even, you know, that's not that much. And I don't see him really hurting you against a team like Washington today. So. Mm-hmm. Mostly upside there, and you know, 10% is just not that much. I do like that. RJ Barrett at 5.5, I'll get a little. He's like my least favorite Nick, but he does get a ton of minutes, and he should get mostly McCollum D, which is not very good. Gary Harris, you know, never really excited to play him, but on a 4-game slate at 4.2, he's one of those value pieces that. You know, that game should be close, and, you know, if variance kind of goes your way, gets an extra steal or block than normal, hits 2 more threes than normal, at 4.2, a 24, which is, you know, not that crazy, is 6X and could be what you need on a slate like this. So I'll have some of him. And then there's a chance that DeAndre Hunter gets ruled out for Atlanta. I believe he's probable, you know, it's an illness, but say he got ruled out, you know, then that would open up some of this value for Atlanta. Personally, I like Kevin Huerter regardless, but, you know, on a 4-game slate, Cam Reddish at 4.5 is probably worth a look as well. And then if DeAndre Hunter gets ruled out, he's like a definite. And then we got to start talking about like Evan Turner and Alan Crabb. I don't plan to go down to Crabb and Turner unless that happens, but just worth mentioning right now and monitoring. And then Troy Brown is up at 5K, him-ish, and then we're going to talk about Bazemore at small forward, but he's shooting guard eligible on DraftKings. Like, they're all at 5K. They all feel like the same play to me. Like, I played a bunch of Troy Brown at like 3-something the other day. 5K, it's hard. Like, yeah, I know he did go for like 30-something. That's not like a common outcome for him. It's hard for me to envision him like being a great play today, but I'll have 5% or less of him as well. Let's move over to small forwards. What are you seeing over there?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough position for me today. I don't really have a great feel for anyone that I really like. There's like Tobias at the top. I think he's more of just kind of like a filler if you're gonna play. Like kind of should see secure minutes unless if it's a blowout. 7-6. I don't know if he has like a super high ceiling at that price, but like he should just get you around what he needs to get you. But I don't think he like wins you anything. Will Barton is 6K. I'll always take a shot on him, I guess. It's just like I don't really like the spot for him as well, but he's a guy that can always tend to go off. Like Marcus Morris, I guess, is probably my favorite, honestly. Like at the higher tier, above the 6-ish K mark on FanDuel, just because I think at that price, like he does have potential to go off in this matchup versus Portland. I think it's a pretty good spot for him here, and like we've seen him, like in theory he should see a good amount of minutes, right? We'd never like what we touched upon, like kind of leveraging off not knowing what this coach is gonna do. Like he could see reduced minutes, I guess. But like if we're kind of projecting him for his season average, he should see around 32 minutes here, and if we see that from him, like I kind of like him the most here at 6K on FanDuel against Portland. So I'll have the most of him kind of here, and then you could like play the Melo narrative, going like up against the Knicks, but it's not even in New York. But he's gonna see minutes like we've seen. I just would probably rather play Marcus Morris, to be honest. But I would rank Morris the best, and then everyone else, like I don't really care what I get of them.
Yep. I mean, I can't even talk about Marcus Morris yet because he's a value play. I'm just kidding. Like, he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I do like Randall a tad better, but Marcus Morris is like, don't quote me on this, but I want to say top 5 in 3-point percentage this year, right? And, before this little injury, the guy was going for like 35 to 55s pretty consistently, right? Portland's a team you want to attack with wings. He finally got back up over, 33 minutes the last 2 games, like 17 shot attempts the last game, 8 of which are 3. He's 5'3" on DraftKings, a site that rewards you for 3-point shooting. Think the Knicks hang in there. Like, I don't see how he hurts you. He would have to have a terrible game.
Yeah.
To not at least get you to 5X. So one of my favorite plays on the slate, probably one of the safer Knicks. I do like Randall better. I do see the question in the YouTube chat on the Knicks bigs. We'll get to that after center. But yeah, I love Marcus Morris. I love the Knicks side. Just continue to beat that drum into your guys' heads and pray that it works out for us tonight. But small forward up top for me, like, we already kind of covered Butler and Simmons. Tobias Harris is meh, 7K. I am impressed with his usage. But I kind of think, like, if I was going to play anyone a lot from Philly, it'd probably be Embiid, as Jokic hasn't been very good defensively. You got Jabari Parker at 6'2". Again, I like that game. If Atlanta hangs in, he's probably plays a little bit better as well. So, I'll have some of him, maybe like 20-ish%. Davis Bertans, I think, is number 1 in 3-point percentage this year. Like, at 6'3", I don't love it, but, if he does continue to just shoot 12, 13 3-points and hit half of them, like, 7 3-pointers at 3.5 points is like 25 points. He's also out there grabbing, somewhere between 3 and 10 rebounds a game, a couple stealing blocks. Like, I don't love him for ceiling, but, I think he shouldn't really hurt you too bad. I'll have like 10% of him. And that's really it. Again, it's mostly going to be Marcus Morris and a couple other value guys I like. Who do you like for value on FanDuel?
Yeah, you mentioned him at like previous positions, but Troy Brown I think is fine. I'm kind of getting a lot of him in my first crunch. I don't know how I feel about that, but he's 4'6" going up against Charlotte. He's fine. I don't necessarily know if he's going to go for like 40 again, but I think he's pretty safe at like 4'6" to get around what you need at a position that I don't really want to pay up for like 7'6" Tobias or anything like that. So I'll probably end up more mixing in a lot of these value guys. Miles Bridges is actually coming in projected at pretty high ownership, which is an interesting kind of talking point, I guess. Weird when a guy that like kind of with his volatility is coming in at really high ownership. Like we've seen him just smash in certain spots. One of them was against Washington earlier on in the year at 40. He had 48 FanDuel points, and then you look at like some of these other spots where he's dudded, like Brooklyn, Golden State. Like some of these matchups, it's just kind of interesting to see like if this guy's going to be 35, 40% owned, where you kind of want to be at on the field with him. On FanDuel, where you have to play two small forwards, like I'll probably end up with a pretty good amount of him. I don't think I'm going to go like over the field. If anything, I'll be under or at, just because I've like seen him dud so many times where I think I could get a little bit of leverage there. But at 5'4", it's really hard to like not get there versus Washington. And then you mentioned like some of these other guys, Cam Reddish, Nick Batum, and Derek Jones Jr. are three other guys that I'm kind of looking at. Cam Reddish probably I don't know, like I'm kind of just sprinkling in like all these guys. Derek Jones Jr., Cam Reddish, and Nick Batum. Wherever I kind of end up on those three is where it's going to end. But I'm not like, I don't have a favorite, I guess, of any of those guys.
Yeah, it's kind of thin down low. There's a couple guys I'll talk about, but after Marcus Morris, let me sort this. Will Barton at 5'5" is probably. There's like three guys from Denver that I will have some ownership, like in the 20s. Will Barton at 5'5", with mostly Tobias D, has probably the best defensive matchup and gets good minutes. I expect the game to be close. He's a guy that I don't think will be that popular today, and I like him in these kind of environments. And then it just goes like way cheap on DraftKings. Like you got Marcus Morris and Will Barton in the like the mid tier. Miles Bridges as well. I think that's a good call. I believe Marvin Williams has been ruled out, so that's additional minutes kind of floating around.
Yeah.
I mentioned Kent Bazemore, like at 5K. I don't think he has much ceiling. I think sure against the Knicks he can get you like 25, 5x you, maybe even 30 and 6x you, and that may be enough on this slate. I just don't see him doing much more, and I think out of 100 outcomes he underperforms more than overperforms. So I like guy is probably going to be popular. I'm cool with being a little underweight on. There's a couple just like extreme value plays that, I've got my eye on, right? James Ennis at 3.7. He gets good minutes. That's about all I can say for that. And it's a 4-game slate. So, worth like 5-6%. Nothing too much more than that. Derek Jones Jr., he was like 25% owned 2 slates. Last time Miami was on on the slate. He plays 26 and 27 minutes the last 2 games. He has not done very well, but he could. He's a freak athlete. He will get most of it in peripherals, and if he's going to be on the court that much against Atlanta, who gets blocked a ton, turns the ball over, doesn't play good D, at 3-6, he's worth getting some of. And then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I didn't think I was ever going to roster this guy again, but Marvin Williams is out. They didn't play Nick Batum at all last game because the coach is kind of in the doghouse. And, he kind of comes out of nowhere. First game back for like over a month and gets 23 minutes, only goes for 15. But, Marvin Williams was there that game. Like, maybe he sees a little more. They could use him to guard Brad Beal. 3-3, 5% of him. Yeah, I've done much worse. And there's, those few reasons I just mentioned that kind of point to him seeing similar minutes. And, against Washington, why not? So, a couple obscure value plays I don't think many people are looking at. And with 155 teams, again, those are the plays that really, everyone's going to have, the Julius Randles and Brad Beals on the slate. But no one's going to have these guys, and they can also allow you to get one more stud that the field doesn't have. So just guys to get a little bit of exposure to because of low ownership and opportunity. Move us over to power forward. What are we doing up top?
Yeah, Bam's the most popular right now, projected on FanDuel versus Atlanta. Still, price tag really isn't catching up to his performance in minutes. So right now he's technically a game time decision, looking like he's probably going to play. So he's the chalk kind of cash type play on FanDuel at power forward at 8-6 versus Atlanta. Like him a lot. I'll probably end up with a good amount of him. And then the next guy, Julius Randle, like you mentioned. I've got Randle wrong a lot this year, but I don't know. It's everything about how I play guys in NBA just shows me to play Randle a lot, and then it just doesn't work out. But I mean, he sees minutes, sees a good amount of usage, and in this spot versus Portland, I don't know why you wouldn't play him. I hope he comes in lower owned, like a lot of sites are projecting right now, because this guy could easily. What's up?
You see him projected for low ownership?
Not super low, but he's 20% right now, which I think is kind of low on a 4-game slate. But
I see him at 33, third highest on the slate, and then highest on the slate on another site. So
really,
that's he's definitely going to be popular. He's got great history. The price is low.
Yeah, I'm on FanDuel though. I don't know if it's different.
What's his price?
7.3.
Okay. I totally, fell asleep that you were talking FanDuel. Continue.
No, you're good. Yeah. So he's gonna come in low ownership, right? Like you touched on it before. Kind of forwards, post players against Portland have just been murdering. So that's another thing that he's got going for him. And so we got minutes, usage, kind of DVP in a way. And then you look at
everything.
And then you look at his history versus Portland, and he dropped to 75 against them last year. I don't know. I just like him a lot. So he'll probably be close. It's tough to go over. He's way less safe than Bam, right? But I think him and Bam might not be a bad pairing when I'm looking at FanDuel and roster construction, is getting both of those guys, just because I don't have a lot of interest in any of these value guys at power forward. And then all the other guys I think are pretty reasonably priced to their expectation, where I think Bam and Randall are still pretty cheap compared to what I think their outcomes could be. Hachimura is 6'6" now on FanDuel. Obviously a good spot for Charlotte, but he's not a smash value when we were playing him 2 slates ago or 3 slates ago at 5-4 or whatever. So I think his price is kind of caught up to him. I'll have some of him, but I don't think he's a must play or anything like that. PJ Washington, if he plays, like you mentioned, they're a little bit thinner in the front court, but his price is pretty reasonable. Davis Bertans as well. 6.2 now on FanDuel. I think that's a pretty reasonable price. You should see around 5 to 6x at that price tag, but nothing to prioritize, I don't think. Jabari Parker, you mentioned, might be the other guy I could see maybe exceeding that price tag at 6K. But honestly, like, this is a pretty thin position when I'm looking at it, and I don't want to take a shot on a lot of these like cheaper guys unless if you have someone that you're like really gung-ho about, then I'll throw them in there. But it's pretty much, for me, it's just going to be like mixing in all these guys above 6K on FanDuel and just hoping like I can't see another guy kind of really outscoring any of those guys, so I'm just mixing them in. But Bam and Randall are going to be my two highest.
Yeah, so Randall's 6'4" on DraftKings, just an absolute smash spot. Centers have been murdering. Portland, he's as close to a center as we get, unless Mitch Robinson's on the court. He's got great history. He's my favorite play. I'm a little bummed he's going to be really popular, but that kind of validates how much I liked him to me. And I'll be way over the field on him. He'll be my highest owned player today, probably like 60% because it's a small slate, and he's going to be popular. So I need to get up over them. I think he finally does the fucking dirty like Julius Randle of last year's style. And everyone else I've really touched on, there's no one up here that I really like. So I'm just going to take it down into value land. Like Carmelo Anthony, I'm blown away by how well he's done. What a fucking perfect like match. Like he needed a team that needed him to shoot a lot. And, that's all he really like can offer to the game is high volume shooting and a little bit of rebounding. But, Portland had that need, and he's had a couple of monster games, and, he's going to have the narrative. He's taken, over 10 shots almost every game he's played out there. Hasn't shot very well outside of like 2 games, but, at 5'6", with motivation against poor defense, like I see him having the volume to do well. It just comes down to whether he does or not. So I like him.
What's his price on DraftKings?
He's 5'6" on DraftKings.
Okay. Yeah, he's 6K on FanDuel at small forward. So
yeah, and it's not as good, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Paul Millsap, 4,800, has really grown on me. Like, what a disappointing season he's having. They're not giving him a ton of minutes. But, when looking through his schedule, like, against the Lakers, out of his last 5 games, it's the only game he played 30 minutes, right? And what do the Lakers have? Size. So does Philly. I think there's like an incentive or a path to him playing more minutes if the game is close. And at 4'8", like, he can really get going. And he's going against his former teammate in Horford, so there's probably some motivation there as well. So I kind of like Paulie Millsap at 4,800, and will be definitely over the field. I'm debating 20 or 30%. One of those I'll land on for him. Also like Mason Plumlee, right? Like I did talk about how I like Barton, but I really like the bigs for Denver. Like Mason Plumlee at 4K, Paul Millsap at 48, or Jokic, who's just absolutely crushed Philly every time he's played them, and a guy that I kind of prefer in pace down spots and closer game environments. So I'm going to be on all them. Plumlee at the least exposure, just because he's gonna either need like Jokic to get foul trouble or be very efficient because he just never gets a ton of minutes. And after that, there's Taj Gibson, Bobby Portis, who are some of the Knicks I'll have at low ownership, 5% or less. And then Juancho Hernan-Gomez, again, 4-game slate. He's 3,100. Like, no one's noticed because he hasn't done well, but he's played 24, 20, and 23 minutes. The coach has said he's going to get him more time. And, like, that minutes alone is reason to play somebody at 31. On top of the fact it's a 4-game slate, like, 5%, why not? Like, when he got minutes last year, he did do well. And, 4-game slate, get some. Is there any value plays on FanDuel that you want to talk about?
Not really, to be honest, at
No, it's
power
perfect. It's
forward.
perfect because we're already hitting the 6:30 mark. I like to kind of jump into, focusing on making our teams and do that talk track. So let's run through center, do the whole thing. Don't stop. Give me the guys you really like.
Yeah, I think you can always play Embiid, right? He's just the highest priced guy going up against Jokic. I think he's fine, but not like super smash priority play for me. You can run it right back with Jokic. He's 8-8. Against Embiid, like he's had really good success against Embiid in past games. Put up a 60 this year as well, and then last year I think one of those games was without Embiid, but against Philly twice he put up 70 and 60. So I don't hate Jokic as well. Whiteside going up against the Knicks 8-6. Have interest in him, and then Mitchell Robinson, he's 6'9". Should see around 25 to 30 minutes in this matchup. Coming off the bench, I like him. Probably close to just as much as the other two I mentioned, maybe a little bit more just because he's cheaper at 6'9". I just will probably make a rule in like Cruncher to only have maybe like one of the front court guys for the Knicks on the same team, just because I don't want to get a ton of lineups with like Robinson and Randall in the same squad. Then I don't know, it's kind of hard for me. Like I really like those like four that we just talked about on FanDuel, and like going down to like a Kelly O or like I know you mentioned Mason Plumlee, he's 3'8", but he'd be your only center. So I don't know if I want to do that today. Right now I had those like guys checked, and then like Damon Jones is 5K, he's been getting minutes. But he's a little bit too pricey for me. I just don't know if I want to take a shot or a risk on one of those guys at a center position where like the raw points matter a little bit more than the other positions. So I'm probably just going to have like those four and just kind of run with that, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. Center on FanDuel, it's a much more serious decision. You only get one. Like, DraftKings, you at least got two with the flex spot, and then some of them are forward eligible. Like, it's not as like major of a decision, but Jokic has not been a good defender, so if there's ever a good spot for Embiid to kind of go off at lower ownership, like this could be it. Again, I think this game's close. I think these are two of the better teams in the NBA, and they kind of match up well, right? And then Jokic just has absolutely murdered Philly in his last season, and I like him in these environments, and he kind of does a little bit of everything that, I don't really give a shit that Embiid's a good defender, right? Bam Adebayo dealing with an illness on a back-to-back at 8-2 doesn't thrill me. I'm not going to have much, but the guy's been awesome this year, so, great matchup, worth getting some. Hassan, even less. Like, the Knicks were guarding the center very, very well. Then Mitch Robinson got injured and had a couple games of foul trouble, so the DVP is jacked back up. But, I think the Knicks just play better. I think, if anything from Portland, it's going to come from Melo or Damon McCollum more than Hassan. I don't think he ceilings out. And at 8K, you're going to need him to get you to 50. So I'm not too into him. I love Mitch Robinson, although 5'7", it's getting there. But centers have just murdered Portland this year. So, Mitch Rob has that major upside, like, when you get the block party going. Cody Zeller at 4.6. I wish he was a tad cheaper, but I do like the recent minutes. We talked about Marvin Williams already being out. Nut spot against Washington. They got no size. And then Jean Mahimi from Washington, like, it's third game back. He played 13 in his first, and then 17 the last game, went for 24. He is 3.9. I expect him to see like around 20 minutes today, and they are just so shorthanded, and centers against Charlotte is fucking awesome. So at 3.9, I will have. Right now, I got him capped at 13%. I think that's about right. I mean, he's rarely going to go for so much that you can't win without him. But I do think it's a good spot and a low-owned value play worth getting some of. And that is going to do it for the slate breakdown. At this point, I'll take a peek. If you guys got any questions, fire them in. If you haven't, please hit the like button for the nation. We chasing likes. We need that shit. Hook a brother up. Cam, that means you too. Everyone's got to do their part. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. And we'll try to take some questions. And 24 minutes to lock. We'll take a peek, see if any news is broke. But we're just basically gonna turn this into like as if we weren't on camera and we were just riding the slate up to lock and building our squads. So let me see. I saw a question earlier in the YouTube chat. Who's the best Nick big man to play in GPPs tonight for DraftKings? I'm leaning Randall, possibly Marcus Morris. I completely agree. I would say Randall, Marcus Morris are a level above, as some of the best plays on the slate. I think Mitch Robinson's in a phenomenal spot. His price is a little tight at 5.7, but I mean, last year when he would get minutes, the dude, went for 50s at times. So he'd be the next. And then, we preach MME here. It's there's a reason pretty much every successful DFS player is doing MME. And, the kind of motto has been it just takes one lineup. So I think there's merit to grabbing a tad of Taj Gibson, Bobby Portis as well, although no more than 3 to 5%. Just, maybe the Knicks do get blown out and Bobby Portis, if he gets minutes, that dude can do the dirty. So worth just having them all because it's a 4-game slate. But Randall and Morris, and I know that you agree, are the better big man plays. I think I saw one more question. Is Mark Jackson coaching the Knicks? Not yet, but that could happen. Here's Ish Smith, Kendrick Nunn, or Barrett. DK, pick one.
Kendrick for me.
I agree. Kendrick for me as well. Millsap is cheap on FanDuel. Is he in play? What's his price over there?
4.8.
Yes, in my opinion, he is definitely in play. I see CK posting the Slack on the screen here, which is awesome. That if you are subscribed, you have access. If you're a monthly member or more, you have access to Slack chat where you get the live injury updates, which are so critical in NBA. We did get the Hornets starting lineup as expected, pretty much. Graham Rozier, Bridges, PJ Washington, and Bismack Biyombo. 6:30, they did get a notice that Josh Richardson would play as expected. Derrick Jones Jr. is questionable for Miami. We talked about how he's played around 20 minutes the last 2 games. If he gets ruled out, is there anything that we need to, pivot to or grab ownership? What's your thoughts there? I mean,
I think, yeah, you can go.
Kelly Olynyk would be the first that comes to mind. Then Duncan Robinson, who, I'm not a huge fan of, but, he has gone off when he gets hot from 3. He's 4,500. But I don't think that would be major. I think it would just strengthen the values of Nunn and Hero and, Jimmy Butler, Kelly Olynyk, the guys we were already going to play. I don't know if there's a value play that necessarily would open up because of that.
Yep.
And that DeAndre Hunter is available to play, so we don't got to worry about looking deeper for the Atlanta value. None or Hero? DraftKings.
None or Hero. DraftKings. What's their price? I haven't even looked at DraftKings today, for being honest. I'm on FanDuel.
What do you call it? The Hero's 5'9" and Hero's 5'3", I believe.
I feel like it's probably Hero it's cash, right? But then Nunn's more of a tournament low-owned guy. I don't know.
I can't play Hero in cash at 5'9".
I just feel like Hero's I feel like Hero's median. He's gonna hit the median projection more, where Nunn could.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I think they're both not that safe though. You know, like
Yeah.
if Derek Jones Jr. gets ruled out, I would like him a slightly more. Oh, we got a question in the WiseTake subscriber chat, which takes priority. Favorite center, regardless of price. I'm guessing that's a DraftKings question, but SG Pete ZM1, let us know which site you're talking about. What do you think? You do FanDuel, I'll do DraftKings.
Yeah, I like Mitchell Robinson and Jokic the best. I'm getting around the same.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely Julius Randle, who's center eligible, but I think I'm gonna go with Jokic as well. Question from the Godfather, CK01 Tree. How much Trae Young, Jabari Parker, Jimmy Butler, and Brad Beal will you guys have? Give me a range, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, etc., etc.
30 to 45 right now is what I'm looking at.
30 to 45 of those four guys?
For Young, Butler,
Parker,
and then who's the other guy you asked? Jabari is like 20.
Okay. For me, I'm thinking I probably have the most of Trae Young, and that's probably 30 to 40. And then Jabari and Jimmy next closest. I just like that game, and they all kind of correlate together, in my opinion. So probably them in the 25 to 30 range, and then Beal I'll probably have in the 15 to 20 range for me. Couple more. Let's see, 642. I got to get to crunching, but outside of Bazemore on FanDuel, he's 5'2". Is he a GP play? Is he a GPP play?
So Bazemore for me is like a guy that I just think with a lot of the other guys that are going to be on the court today with like Melo, McCollum, and Dame, at the ownership that he's projected right now, around like 30% on FanDuel at small forward. He's a guy I'm actually just not playing. I don't think when I'm looking at it, I just don't think at that price tag, he's like 5'2", that he's going to be someone that I need, where if he gets like a 25 or 30, I think I can definitely still survive it. So I'm just kind of, honestly, I'm not going to have any of him, and I'm just going to play around some of these other guys at the position, just because I don't think Bazemore is going to burn me today, and he's chalky. So I think he could burn other people more if he's chalked than if I fade him and he goes for like a 30.
I feels that. I do. Yeah, Bazemore feels more of a cash game play on DraftKings to me than GPP. I don't think he's got much ceiling, but I think he's going to have the ownership and a decent median projection. Yeah, so I'm going to crunch my squads. Who are you getting the most exposure to, Cammy boy?
I'm tweaking right now. I'll let you know in like 5 minutes. There's a couple of things that I don't like that's coming up.
No problem. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, how much Mo Wags and Miles Bridges you thinking about getting? I'll answer Mo Wagner 5%, Miles Bridges 15 from me.
Yeah, I'm getting an uncomfortable amount of Bridges. Like I said, I'm gonna be at the field. So right now he's projected 30. That's kind of where I have him capped. And then Mo, what is he, like 6? I think he's like 6'3" on FanDuel. At power forward, no, he's at center now. I think they switched him. I just like the other centers better, so I'm not really getting any of him.
All right. Cool. Let me get this crunch in, because yesterday this shit was slow AF, and I almost had a heart attack. I hit crunch. I had I forget. I think I had 171 teams, right? And after one full minute, it had only gotten me 8 because I was on Skype. It had slowed my computer down, and I was like, "Holy shit!" 640 teams a minute. Like 20 minutes, I only have 160. Like I'm fucked. And then it like popped up to like 59, and it took like 6 minutes. It was a little annoying, but it got there. I just want to get this in, so we don't miss nothing, and hopefully some news comes out or something. Give us a little something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like this slate didn't really have a ton of news to like react to.
Well, we only have one game starting at 7, then the 2 at 8, and then we have that Island late night hammer Knicks. We do have the Knicks starting lineup: Nitty, Barrett, Morris, Randall, Taj Gibson. Pretty much the lineup they've been rolling out.
Why did it do this? I'm an idiot. Nothing. I hate when I do that. Like when you're crunching and you just like do something blatantly stupid.
Mm-hmm. I hate when you do that too.
None or Peyton on FanDuel. None by far is going to be the guy that you're going to want to play. I think Paulie and I though are both kind of going to have exposure.
Pricing on them too.
Nunn's 4.9 and Peyton's 4.4.
Yeah, I mean, none safer. Elf's that GPP play today, though, that I feel good about. I really do.
Yeah. Right now I have like 20% Elf and 66% none, which
it's a solid percent. Wizards will start Smith, Beal, Bonga, Hachimura, Wagner. Josh Richardson will be on a minutes limit Tuesday, so
Who's your least favorite Nick? DSJ? Guard.
Nick?
Guard.
Probably Nidalakina. I think that even when he gets a ton of minutes, he's not really a scorer. He's more of a defender. Yeah. And I think Elf is going to just peel away at his minutes.
Sure.
Let's see. Shouts out. Oh shit. Some fucking set. What? Let's talk about MME settings. How many uniques do you use, KamG?
Like 3 to 4, depending on like the slate. And kind of, I'll like crunch it and see. I'll look a little bit and kind of see like what it's coming out to, and if I want a little bit more differentiation, then you can kind of increase it or decrease it. But
you're talking about uniques or randoms?
Like unique players per?
Yeah. You're talking about unique.
3 to 4.
Okay. Yeah, I only do 2. I think like 1 is too little. You'll get too many lineups too similar, and on a 4-game slate, like there might not be that many options at that that one guy that they're changing. But more than 2, and I think you get a little too much diversity. Like, I want bunches of my favorite plays kind of together, and when I get them right, then those last 2 or 3 guys that are variant will help me get to the top. But I'm certainly no expert yet at this MME, but that's been my experience.
The same way. For instance, like if I go like 4 uniques, I'll get like 70. No, hold on. Yeah, 72% none. Where if I do 3 uniques, I got like 90.
Wow.
So it's like a little different, but I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Where you at though?
60 now, 60 none, 30 young, and then kind of everyone else is like around 25 that we talked about on the show, and then those Knicks and Portland value plays are like around like 5 to 7. But Elf's 20, Butler 40. I have a lot of the Knicks front court.
So will I.
So one of them's got to do good, right? Like one of them.
Dirty. Otherwise, it will get done to you.
So like right now I have Mitchell and Randall can't be on the same team. That's probably pretty safe, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm all right with that actually as a rule because um, they don't really correlate much, and like they're gonna fight for those rebounds. So
Yeah.
and like different game flows, for like their upside. Like Mitch Robinson would probably play more into a blowout where Randall wouldn't. Like,
Right.
I agree with that for the most part. You could because of their pricing play
Right.
them both, right? But then I would be including more Portland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, cool. Classic Chicago, just always sirens going off.
Classic.
Yeah, so we're probably not going to get any news, I'm assuming, so we're probably pretty safe to just let it riff.
Don't feel that way.
Available to play Derek Jones Jr., so that's probably all we're going to get.
Okay. There you go. There you go, baby. What it do, baby? All right, so who's like your top 5 highest exposed?
Yeah, let me look quick. None for sure. None, Morris, Randall, Bam, Hero are would be like my core, I guess you could call it.
Okay. That did just happen.
He's having a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wait, they can't hear you?
Yeah.
Yikes. Those voices in our head are just hearing you chirp. Wow. Facts.
Quick note: Bam had a bio ruled in. I mean, we expected that, but that is now confirmed.
All right, let's do it.
Question in the YouTube chat from Roddy. Playing Young, Butler, and Morris and Randall on FanDuel, how do you feel about playing Zeller or Len in the center spot? Cam, give me them 2 prices, Zeller or Len.
Yeah, so Zeller is going to be 4.7 and Len's 4.7 as well.
I'd say Zeller for sure. Like Len is not a great spot for him. Like Bam can kind of dirty him up. It's a much better spot for Zeller, and if they're the same price, then I'll take the Zeller. For me.
Yeah, I would say Zeller too.
You?
Right.
It's the first time in a while I've wanted some late breaking news from the NBA just to kind of spice up this show, Damn. But it's all right. Yeah.
Playing Young, but yeah, that's the same one. Peyton or Ish on FanDuel. I mean, so Ish is gonna be like the uber kind of like chalky guy along with Nunn at that point guard position. Let me look at Ish is gonna be probably top 3 or 4 Owned. It also like depends on what tournament you're playing in, right? I think Ish is probably fine if you're doing like single entry, or like cash or something like that. If you're playing in like that big $7.70 tournament or something on FanDuel where there's like 60,000 people in it and you're trying to win $100,000 to first, like then I would play Elf because it's gonna be 1% owned, and if the coach decides to up his minutes to 20 to 22 today, we've seen what he can do. He can just absolutely go off. So that's kind of how I would approach it. It just really depends on what tournament you're playing in, I guess. Peyton's going to be the more riskier one, and Ish is going to be your safer single entry cash kind of play.
4 minutes to lock.
Yeah, I'm in. 5. As long as nothing breaks.
Yeah.
Watch like none get ruled out or something.
Yeah, and FanDuel, you're just ruined when that happens.
I just quit.
You just quit? I hear you. I think they would have told us, though, if Kendrick Nunn was going to get ruled out. What's the first game? Was it the Charlotte one?
We haven't had, like, slot mania. We haven't had... I remember, like, the last couple of years, it's been, like, some dude gets ruled out at, like, 6:02 or some shit, like, randomly.
Yep. And infuriate. 7:02 for, the real people living on the East Coast is what he's talking.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I hate, like, there's just certain players.
How much Elf are you playing? I know the nation can't hear him, but he's in my ear. 15.
Yeah, I finished with 17 on my last 17. Thanks. I've been practicing at home.
Stevie Brown, the worst 7 in the industry.
The worst.
Yeah. Well, he just doesn't dropping them, which is like, dude, you got one that's so funny. It angers me that he doesn't drop it more often and, give back a little bit.
He's got one that's so funny. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is a pretty uneventful news slate. So
yeah, well, 4-game slate, and like I said, only one of them starting at 7. We got an hour till the next 2, but
that's true.
I would say no news is good news. Oh, nope, that's tomorrow. No news is good news on if you're living in the FanDuel world.
Yeah, exactly. That's my pet peeve, dude, when they drop when it's like, oh, on Thursday this guy's like questionable, and I'm looking for news on like Tuesday. It's like, and then I'm like kind of dyslexic, so I'll look and I'll be like, oh, like Tuesday news, like today, like this guy's out, and then it'll be Thursday and I'll be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And I hate what's happening right now as they're giving us Memphis Grizzlies news for tomorrow. Like at 1 minute before lock, you're gonna put shit in there, like
yeah.
Come on, I don't give a fuck that Kyle Anderson's probable for tomorrow. Like, the fuck out of here. For me today, the plane.
For me.
All right, nation, that is lock. Thanks for running with us today. Love taking you all down to lock. Who else in the industry is taking you right up to lock? Fortunately, wasn't a ton of news today, but tomorrow is another day. We'd appreciate some feedback on this style of show. Do you like this more than the Wise stream? Less? No? Yes? How do we do it? I don't know. Thanks for rocking with us, Cam. Always a pleasure. We out of here. Peace.
Yeah.